Hey guys. So, it's really dark out here. I've been gone for about a month, and I wanted to give you guys an update on where I am. It's cold and snowy. It's really dark out here. So, a lot has gone through my head lately, and some changes have been made, and I'm out here in the wilderness. I wanted to kind of give you guys an update on what's been going on. So if you want to hear what I've been doing lately, then stay tuned. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm in my backyard. The snow's about to melt tomorrow. There's the backyard. And we do have some really pretty trees over there. But the snow is about to melt, I think tomorrow, because we're supposed to get a bunch of rain. So I thought I would make a weird, funny intro because I know you guys missed me so much. Okay, no, you maybe didn't miss me and my weird personality, but I did put on this coat for you, and I went and sat in the snow just to pretend that I went out in the wilderness. I have made some changes though, and I would like to share those with you. So let's go inside and warm up. Schoolroom now. I'm going to talk to you guys about what we have changed. So we have made some changes in our homeschool, all good stuff, but I'm going to share with you what that is. So one of the first big changes that we actually made in the beginning of the year was to switch maths. My two girls are getting older. I've got one in 7th grade and one in 9th grade. And I knew that once we hit 9th grade, it was going to be a challenge to find a math curriculum that was good, because I have researched for years and I just hadn't found anything that was like amazing. So we decided to try CTC math, and that's what we've been using for the first half of the year. Well, actually, for my 7th grader, we've been using it for the first half of the year, and it's worked really well. I've really enjoyed it. So that hasn't actually changed. She's still using that. It's working great for her. My 9th grader, however, was doing CTC math, but in the higher levels of math, and was finding that it actually didn't give enough help. Like when you get something wrong, it doesn't really give you a big explanation. You kind of have to go back and look at past lessons to figure out what you did wrong, which for us, it's new because we've never done online math before. This is our first time doing this, so it was kind of hard. She was struggling with figuring out, like, okay, I get that I got this wrong, but how do I fix it? And I don't know. Some of the stuff, it was like, oh yeah, this is what you did wrong. And some of the stuff, I'm like, I have no idea how to do that. So it's kind of hard, and we ran into that happening too many times over and over again, and then you'd get stuck and having to go back and rewatch the video. It just was not working for us. It was taking more time than it should have, with having to figure out like really what she was supposed to be doing. So I have only done this twice, I think, but I wanted to share this with you guys because it is okay to switch in the middle of the year if you need to. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the curriculum. It just might not fit for that kid, and that's what we found, that CTC math was working well for my 7th grader, but I think for high school, when you're talking algebra and up, in my opinion, because I am not a strong algebra teacher, I really didn't enjoy algebra at all, geometry, all that kind of stuff when I was in school. So I'm gonna need a little more help teaching it than just right or wrong. You know, I've got to be able to help. And that's one thing that with having the physical like teacher books that we've had before, it was easy to just open it up. There was always an explanation, or we could just flip back a couple pages, and it's just different when you do it online. Ugh. But there's pros too, because it grades it all. She does the lesson by herself. The video's on there, blah, blah, blah. That's great stuff. So anyway, we switched in just about, I don't know, we were maybe only 2 months in. I don't even know if we were 2 months in, maybe. So actually it wasn't a half year thing. It was about 2 months into the year, we were finding that CTC math was not going to work for her for algebra. So we switched to Dennison Algebra, and it is like a 180 or a 360, which is it? Whichever one is the positive one. She has completely turned herself around when it comes to math, is getting anywhere from 90 to 100 on every single lesson, which has been amazing. So I feel like I was a little nervous because Dennison Algebra is a new thing. I don't know, it's new to me. I don't know how long it's actually been out there, but I feel like it's kind of fairly new. But for the upper level grades, the guy that teaches it, there's nothing flashy about it. There's nothing wild and crazy. It's just this guy who is an expert at teaching algebra, and he's also a very good teacher. And he just teaches it she watches it. It's a pretty quick lesson. I don't know, maybe 10 minutes at the most, where she watches the lesson and then she actually gets a book. There's also like a teacher book, like a grading book that she uses, and he encourages them to grade their own stuff, which is awesome because as a mom of multiples teaching, it is hard to keep up with grading. I've always struggled with that. But he actually tells them, I want you to grade your own stuff. And so she does everything on her own, but she comes and tells me, hey, I got a 98, or I got everything right, or I missed whatever. But she's done so good. Like she said, Mom, this is what I want to stick with for the rest of high school. It's awesome. So I am so excited to have found Dennison Algebra. I'm not working with them or anything. So this is just really great. And I'm so excited because high school was like that one thing that I feel like a lot of people are like, I can't teach high school math. Well, you can, because it's working for her. Math is not her favorite. It's not her strong point, but it is now. She's doing awesome with it. So that has been a huge, major blessing to find that and feel like it's a good fit. So we are loving, loving, loving it. In case you're new here, I have 4 kids. So I have a 14-year-old girl, a 12-year-old girl, a 10-year-old girl, and then I have an 8-year-old boy. So for the girls, that's the only thing we've changed. We haven't made any other changes except for one thing. I will show you guys this. I feel like, at least for us, when you hit like the end of the first semester, you're in December, near the holidays, I felt like, and we were doing sports, I don't know, just to add on to everything else, they're in basketball. So I felt like the day was always a crunch day. We have a co-op all day on Mondays. Tuesday, we had like a little bit of, we do like the morning of school, and then they have piano lessons, and then trying to finish school, and then basketball, blah, 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 blah. It's like crazy. So I needed something that was going to keep us on track. So I made these little checklists. I tried to make them pretty. And so these are 2 examples. This is my 7th grader, so she's obviously got more stuff. That's my 5th grader. This is a checklist. I made this in Canva for free. I just downloaded it, sent it to our print shop that we have locally, and just printed each of them one of these, and then I laminated it, and it's pretty, and it's a checklist that they can just make sure every single day everything is getting done. So that was huge, because when you don't have a checklist, we've gone through times where we'll have one and then we won't have one, and they do okay. But this, in a busy season, that is a huge tip. Make sure each of your kids has a checklist. Even my son has one, but he has everything on there that he needs to do, and he doesn't have that many things, but he has everything on there that he needs to do, and he checks it off when he finishes it. And it just helps make sure. So I'm not like, okay, what did you do? What do you have left? And then I'm trying to remember, and then like, oh, you forgot about this. Everything's on here, so I don't have to ask. So that was one other huge thing that just helps a mom like me who maybe isn't a type A. I'm not at all a type A. So remembering everything and making sure we get everything done is sometimes hard. And if I don't have it written down, we will forget something. It's a guarantee. So those have been a huge help. So all the other changes that I have made have been for my son. And I feel like he is, what do I want to call it? I am always learning something new. I'm trying to figure out the best way to homeschool him and make sure that he's learning and doing everything he needs to do. and he is completely different from my girls. So it is a learning process. So I'm gonna go over some of the stuff we've done for him. One thing that I've learned through this, that I've seen other moms show how they do different curriculums for different kids. I don't know, I get for their family, that's what they needed to do. But for me, it was like, hey, this has worked for her and it's worked for her, so it's gonna work for her and it's gonna work for him. And we've always done the same thing for everybody. Like when this kid is in 3rd grade, this is what they do. When this kid's in 5th grade, this is what they do, because it's always worked. Well, God gave me a kid that is not true for. So we love, love, love Christian Light Education. And we have used them for Bible in the past. We've used them for language for the elementary grades. We've used them for math for the elementary grades. Reading for the elementary grades. So anyway, love Christian Light Education. But one of the biggest things is they are longer lessons. And even though maybe my girls didn't love that at certain times, it wasn't the end of the world. They were able to do it. It was no big deal. I am finding that it might be a little too much for my son. And I am finally learning why some of those moms have different things for different kids, for the same grade or something like that. He is like super smart, but the lessons are long, and it's just a lot for a boy who wants to go run around and bounce and knock things over and stuff like that. It's hard for him to sit for that long. I mean, we're talking like 4 to 5 pages for each lesson. And if your kid can do that, it worked for all my girls, it was no big deal, but for him, it is a lot. So we started out the year doing Christian Light Education for reading, for language, and for math. Didn't think that was that big of a deal. At co-op, he does history, he does science, and gym class, stuff like that. But it's too much. So I cut off reading. I kept going back and and it was like, oh my word, our day is not going to be done until 7 p.m. because he just takes so long. He's getting everything right. So he is smart. He knows what he's doing, but it's just too long. So, I mean, we've done some math. Math UC, it was like 1 page. It was like 1 page or 2 pages or something with maybe 6 problems on each page. It was quick. It was like no big deal. Well, this is totally different. So this takes forever with him. It's hard because it's good and I know that he's learning, but it's taken a while. Oh my word. So mama can't handle this. So one thing we did was we set aside Christian Light Education reading. I was like, you do not need a formal reading at this point because you are reading. He's reading great. He knows how to read. He does a great job with reading. So I was like, I'm going to put aside the reading comprehension part of it, which is the workbooks, and we're not doing it right now. And I kept thinking we're going to go back to it. We'll just see how that goes. He is doing Christian Light Education language, which are really long lessons, but he can handle that. I'm telling him he can handle that. And we're also doing their math because he's doing great with that. What I have been encouraged by other moms who are more seasoned than me, have been doing this longer than me, or maybe just have been doing this the same amount as me, but are smarter than me, I don't know, or just different personalities. And they said, mark off some of the problems. And I am not a type A person, but I don't like marking off. I think it's because I used to be a teacher. I don't know what it is, but I struggle to mark off problems. You know, where you can be like, okay, do every other problem or whatever. I'm like, but they need that one, and this one's a little bit different. And what if he needs this one? And so I make him do all of it, and it's just too much. So I have started this week, I started marking off problems where I'm only marking off maybe like 8 problems, but it gives him this sense of like, oh, mom said I don't have to do 2 of them on each page or 4 of them on each page or whatever. That has been a huge help. Thank you, ladies, who told me to do that. And I have heard that in the past, but I've struggled to do it. But I'm actually listening this time. So I am marking off some of his problems. We are only doing Christian Light for math and language. One other thing I added, which might sound crazy, like, why are you adding something if this is hard? Because he's doing history and science at co-op, I felt like he's only doing the like boring stuff at home and all the fun stuff is at co-op. So I added in Heart of Dakota. So I already had this. We are using Beyond Little Hearts for His Glory. We are using it very modified. This is for grades 6 through 8, and I used it for my girls when they were, from what I have discovered, if you are using this program, the best is to put them right in the middle. So this would be best for a 7-year-old. But we're not using this as our main curriculum. I'm just doing it as an add-in. So I just started, actually a few weeks ago I started this. I'm just like, this is what we did today. Now this gives you the option to do all of this stuff. For me, I love this curriculum, but I have struggled to do it with multiple kids, and I've always wanted to go back to it with him, and we're just baby stepping our way in. So what I'm doing is just adding this little bit of history, which is right now we're reading in this book, Stories of Little Pilgrims. It's just a couple pages, and he is doing history at co-op, but I wanted to do it with him. And I feel like this is another, like, adding in reading comprehension. We read a little story in here. He has to tell me, answer a couple questions, or I'll ask him something just to make sure he's paying attention. And then there've been a couple times where I've done the art project, not every day because we just don't have time right now, but I have done it a couple times. There's a poem that maybe like a couple days a week I've been able to do the poem, but we are not doing it every day. So I'm definitely not doing this like a full Heart of Dakota, like all the way. But I wanted to kind of baby step some of this in, and my goal also was to do the story time, which is a read aloud with him by myself. But we've got to get through, like, he just has to get a little bit quicker with getting his lessons done, because I am balancing. Homeschool is a balance, helping, like, it is a balancing act is actually what it is. But going to help this kid and like, if he was my only kid, it would be no problem. I would just work with him all day, but I can't do that. So, and he's just one of those that he wants me sitting right there with him, and we're going to learn independence, and I'm hoping this will help. But we're just doing a little bit of Heart of Dakota. And so this was whatever history they tell me to do or science they tell me to do, we are doing that if it works for that day. So that's what I'm working on. That has helped to add a little bit of fun. So even though I'm adding a little bit extra into our day, I feel like he needs that. So another thing that I'm doing, because I took away reading, I have a couple times just had him read out of the reader that I have for Christian Light Education reading, but I also have books like this. So like Frog and Toad Treasury, it's got different chapters. Frog and Toad is great, but I think this is fine for a second grader. So he read this whole story. Let's see how many pages this is. So it's page 4 to 15. So it was like 11 pages that he read, and he did really well with it. So it's kind of like I'm just trying to like sneak in some stories that we're gonna read. He just reads to me. So this has worked where like I'm making lunch, he just sits and reads to me. So I'm trying to do it where, okay, I have to do something else. How about he just sits and does that for me? And it's worked really well so far. So I know you guys are like, why am I watching her channel? She has no idea what she's doing. You're always learning. Like there's some stuff that I feel like I totally figured out. And then there's some stuff that I like certain kids that you're always learning, always. One other thing that I have learned this week that is amazing is for this specific child, setting a timer for 20 minutes has been great. So what I do when it's time for me and him to sit down together, we've done our morning stuff, we've done our Bible and all the stuff in the morning. We're doing science together also. We're doing the Good and the Beautiful's amphibians, and it's really cool. I got it in the beginning of the year before I knew what science we were doing, and that's been fun to do, just to add in. Even though they're doing science at co-op, I've enjoyed doing that with them. So, but once him and I go, the girls go to do their individual subjects, and him and I go to sit down together, I set a 20-minute timer. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do math. You have 20 minutes to do whatever you can with me. Then the rest is homework. So I set the timer for 20 minutes. We go through the lesson. Typically I've been able to do like, let's say there's 4 pages. We've done 2 to 3 maybe in 20 minutes, including a speed drill. And then he's got 1 to 2 pages left to do for homework. He's worked so much quicker. He has always been one of those kids that like, if he has a competition against the clock, like if I'm like, okay, this section, you got 5 minutes, do this section. He'll like want to beat the clock and he'll do it quickly. So that is something that just works for him. I don't think it would work for my girls. I don't think they would enjoy that at all, but it works for him. So I set a 20-minute timer. Whatever's not done, he has to finish later. when I'm working with somebody else. And then language, we did 20 minutes of that. And then for the frog and toad thing, we had 20 minutes for him to read. And if he doesn't need it, if he reads it in 10 minutes, super. Then you're done and you go get a 15-minute break or a 10-minute break or whatever. Setting little tiny times to make sure that you're not doing this all day long. And if he knows he only has 20 minutes to do this, it pushes him a little bit harder and he seems to work better. It doesn't always work, but it helps. It does. That's all we've done to change. That's it. Everything else is pretty much the same. One major thing that I do know as a homeschool mom is that you've got to take each year by year and change things as you need to. You've got to take semester by semester, and if you need to change partway through, change it up partway through. You don't want to always be changing stuff, but if you see that there's a problem and you're like, man, I thought this was going to work, but this doesn't fit for us, modify it somehow, or just change if you need to, but don't keep doing something that's not working. So anyway, no major life changes. I haven't moved out to the wilderness, even though sitting outside in the snow like that was really quiet and it was really kind of refreshing and my coat was warm, so I was fine. But no, I'm not moving out to the wilderness. I have missed you guys, so thanks for sticking around while I took a little break. I did need to take a break just from everything, and it was really good for me. It was good for my family, so I appreciate you guys sticking around and coming back. I'll have a video coming every single week starting today. Nice to be back. Thanks for being here. See you guys next time. Happy homeschooling.